welcome once again to my YouTube channel, Cheese Doctor TV, and to my program as the Cheese Doctor. We are making the show number 17. This show is in English only. It's dedicated to the people who speak English. I have a program in Spanish as well at 10 o'clock. I had it before at 9 o'clock, but I moved it to 10 o'clock because lots of people asked me to move it. So if you want to learn how to make cheese and you are English speakers, you're in the right place. So today I'm going to carry on talking about the food safety related to cheese making. And when we make cheese, we have to make sure that our product is safe for the consumer. Not only for the consumer, but also for your family. If you're making cheese, you just want to make cheese because it's your passion like mine, or and you don't want to sell it. You just want to make it sure for your family. You're in the right place. It's good to know that there are some protocols that you have to follow, and in this way, your food and your product will be safe, and you won't get sick. You have to follow some simple protocols, and I'm gonna explain you how to do it. There's some people starting to connect. Okay, if you want to make any comments, you're more than welcome. I'm gonna answer the questions from my audience, the English and the Spanish one. And let's start with the presentation. Let me first go to the okay. These platforms I never understand it. Okay, let's go. As I said, we're going to speak about health and safety for cheese making. Let me share the screen, and we're going to carry on. Sorry, I have some announcement to make before we start. I want to thank you, Tim Morris from UK. He just subscribed to my membership program in the category of cheese lovers. In this category, he's going to be into a team. You're going to be in a Facebook group where we can share all the for being a member. Okay. Jose Rene Giraldo from Colombia. Also, welcome to my membership program in the cheese lover category as well. Now we are 14,000, almost reaching. You just a bit away. 14,000 before we reach this goal. 14,500 subscribers. Now the commitment is really trying to teach you how to make cheese. If you want to make any type of cheese, if you like making, you are in the right place. I'm gonna teach you how to make any type of cheese. Now we're gonna make an Indian cheese called paneer. Okay, it's very easy to make. Only two ingredients: vinegar and milk. I'm gonna teach you what type of milk you have to use, what type of, how much amount of vinegar. It's a very easy recipe at home. Okay, if you want to sell it as well, you will be able to do it. And if you want to have your if you want to know how to have your systems for health and for food safety, watch this presentation because it's very important, and I will tell you all the protocols to consider. In this way, your product will be safe for your family and for the consumer and your future clients as well. Okay, I'm gonna make ice cream yogurt. This video is on the way. I'm gonna make an Argentinian cheese called queso sardo. It's an Argentinian cheese. It's a ripened cheese, an aged cheese, but it's very young. The ripening time is not much, less than 3 months. So you will be able to make it, okay? And we're gonna make provolone cheese, which is it comes from mozzarella. Provolone is an Italian cheese. Basically the provolone is a ripened mozzarella, but I'm gonna give you the right cultures to use. So at the end of the aging process, you're gonna have a provolone with a very piquant flavor, and depending on the ripening time, you're going to have more or less piquant flavor. The piquant flavor gives the touch to the mozzarella, and well, this is called difference with this type of cheese. It's very yum. I love it. Okay, my my cheese course is, I would say, is halfway. I'm about to finish the theory, all the knowledge that I want you to learn in this course, and I'm gonna start making the videos for the cheeses. We're gonna make in this course. We're gonna make 15 cheeses, and you're gonna be able to make them as well. And we're gonna make soft cheeses, semi hard cheeses, pasta filata cheeses like mozzarella. We're gonna make Swiss cheeses and Dutch cheeses as well. We're gonna make Havarti. We're gonna make Munster, mozzarella. We're gonna make mozzarella both ways: the traditional way and the easy way, the fast way. Okay. If you want to take the course, just email me at Dr. Quesero. Is the same name of my channel, Dr. Quesero. Dr. Quesero at gmail.com. Dr. Quesero at gmail.com. Just tell your interest, and I'll put you on the list, and you're gonna get 50% off. Okay. Okay. Let's start with the presentation. Okay. Let's go and let's share some knowledge. Okay. Here we are. Let me from here. Okay. Last week we spoke about health and safety for cheese making. When we make cheese, as I said before, we have to guarantee that our product is safe. If our product is not safe, we're not doing anything. So, and we might get our relative or our client sick. So we have to make a safe product. To do that, we have to follow certain protocols, a series of protocols that we have to consider when we are making cheese. And not only cheese, it applies for any type of food. We have to make we have to make it safe for the consumer. And in general terms, when we make cheese, we have to have registry of everything. We have to have registers of temperatures, bacteria that we use, and we have to follow several protocols. And each steps of the process, we call it obstacles. Okay, and we have to overcome these obstacles. So the idea is, when we are making cheese, for example, we have to, if we are making cheese with raw milk, to put an example, the milk when it's raw, it has a lot of germs. So we have to, and in this case, we have a problem. We have to overcome this problem. How to do it? We have to follow a procedure. What procedure? One example would be, we have to pasteurize the milk. Another procedure, we have to, if we're not gonna pasteurize it, okay, we don't pasteurize it. We're gonna make the cheese with raw milk, but we can make fresh cheeses. We cannot make fresh cheeses using raw milk. So we have to allow this cheese to age for minimum 2 months according to the regulations. In this case, we are overcoming this obstacle, and so on. And when we are making, another example would be, for example, if we are making the cheese and we already overcome the pasteurization process, because I use pasteurized milk, so I don't have this obstacle anymore. So you have to have your cheese that is protected against the elements, against the cross contamination. How? We have 2 ways. We can maybe, and I'm putting just examples. We can weigh off the cheese at pH number 4, to put an example, because if we leave it at pH at a higher pH, which is more alkaline, the cheese, for being more alkaline, is going to be exposed to the elements and is going to be attacked by by cross contamination. And in this way, our product will not be safe. So we have to lower the pH to make the cheese safe. The same with the salt content. The salt protects the cheese. And during the process, each part of the process is an obstacle. Some of them are critical, some of them are not critical. In general terms, there are two critical elements, two critical points when we make cheese, which is pasteurization and pH level. Okay, and we have these two parameters are compulsorily when we make cheese. But depending on the type of cheese, one of them is more important than the other. As I said, if we are making aged cheese, pasteurization is not so critical, because after if we age the cheese for more than 2 months, we're not going to have any problem with pasteurization with using raw milk, because it's allowed for it's allowed by the standards. Okay, it's allowed by the standards, so we can use raw milk if we're going to age our cheeses for more than 2 months. If we're going to make fresh cheeses using raw milk, we have a problem. We have to pasteurize compulsorily, and this is our critical point. So, but this in general terms. There are some other elements that we have to consider when we are making our cheese making system. And I'm going to tell you what to consider. What protocols are these ones? Okay. For example, when we are making cheese, we have to have a series of protocols. I call them steps that we have to comply. Every time that we open the plant or we enter to our kitchen, we have to follow the same protocol. In my case, for example, when I make cheese in my house, before I start making cheese, I have to sanitize all my kitchen. So I have to start making cheese maybe 1 or 2 hours before the meals arrive, because in this hour or 2 hours, I am sanitizing all my kitchen, tops, all the ware, all my equipment, all the floor, all the walls and stuff, all the cabinets. So I have to sanitize everything using chemicals. And then in this case, another protocol would be, for example, your staff. Okay, you have to have your competent staff. Your staff needs to be trained for the activity that they're going to do, and you have to have a training record. Okay, you have to train your personnel. Another protocol to consider is the staff induction. Your staff needs to know what to do when they enter to the plant, and not only the staff, only your clients, or if you have a visit because you're making cheese at home, for example. If you're making cheese at home, each person that comes close to your kitchen needs to be inducted, and you have to tell them, hey, look, my kitchen is where I make cheese. You have to go here, take off your shoes when you enter to the house, because you have to establish a protocol of the thing that you consider that will make your environment safe. Okay. Also, you have to have protocols when you clean your hands. In my case, what I do is I always, especially now that we have COVID and we are in lockdown, my protocol is before I come to my house, I have a sanitizing station on the whole of my house. I use alcohol, rub my hands, take off my shoes, and enter to the house. The same if you have a cheese plant. If you have a cheese plant and you have COVID, you have to follow the same protocol. Another protocol would be, for example, you have to take off your clothes and put on your overall. And it has to be white, because if you have a white, it will it would be easier for you to notice if you have any cross contamination in your clothes. Okay. Another example would be, for example, if you have to use, when you enter to the plant, you have to use gumboots, or if you are entering into your kitchen, and you are making cheese, and you are selling cheese, but your plant is at home, you have to use a special shoe, and you have to sanitize it with chlorine solution or ammonium quaternary ammonium solution. I mean, you put these parameters, okay, in your system. Also, if someone is sick and have the flu, you need to report it and put it in your system. You have to take records of everything. You have to put everything in black and white. When you put everything in black and white, it's easier to trace your product. If something happens, if something goes wrong, you know what happened. You know where, if you made a mistake, because for example, if you have you have a visitor, and this visitor had flu, and you got sick. This visitor were inducted. It was flu. Does he have flu? Did you report it that this person had flu? No, you didn't. So now you have a gap, and you have a loose end, and you might have a problem. But if you have everything attached, and you have all your loose end hold by the hand, and you have control of all the process of everything that's happening in your kitchen, in your house, or in your plant, you won't have any problem. Okay. Another protocol that you have to consider is that when you make cheese, don't keep your cheese stuff with your food stuff, especially if you're making at home. All the cheese stuff, all the cheese making stuff should be in a separate cabinet, in a separate locker, in a separate drawer. Don't put your milk, or don't mix your milk with the milk that you use in your house. Don't use the same pot that you use for making cheese. Don't use the same pot for cheese making, and mix it with the one that you use it for everyday's food to cook in your house. So you have to keep two pots, the one from your house and the cheese making one, and in different places. Okay. You also have to have cleaning protocols. Okay, you have to have cleaning protocols. In my case, what I do is, when I enter to the kitchen, because I make cheese in my house, I have containers full of chlorine solution at 200 parts per million. And I prepare this solution before I make cheese. It's in my sanitizing protocol. Before I start making cheese, I sanitize my whole kitchen. I prepare the chlorine solutions, and put all the gear over there, all the equipment into this chlorine solution, so it gets sanitized. Okay. The time of disinfection should be in your system. You establish the time. In my case, because I use 200 parts per million chlorine solution, I leave it for minimum 2 minutes, and then I use it. Once I finish it, I soak it back again into the container to carry on sanitizing. Okay. You also have to manage the allergens. If you are using milk, for example, if you are using milk, you have to have a protocol, and you have to advise your clients that you are using milk. How? You put in your label, this product contains milk, or this product contains allergens, milk. Or if you are using peanuts, for example, if you are making if you are making cheese and you're using any type of allergens, soy, beans, peanuts, milk, you have to reveal it and disclose it on your label, and you have to. In this way, you are complying with the standard. If your client eat it, he's aware that he's eating something with allergens, and he won't be. I mean, he won't suffer because he's not allergic to this product. But if he's allergic, he won't now. And you are disclosing that this product has this type of allergens, he won't consume it. Okay. Another parameter to consumer to manage is bugs. We all have bugs in our houses. and also in our plant. If we have the plant, we have flies flying around. That these flies can step on the food and cross-contaminate the food. So you have to have protocols to avoid the bugs from coming into your plant or in your house. To put an example, if you have, and you have to have a register. And if you see a bug, you have to report it. Day one, I saw flies in my kitchen, and you have to have a mitigation procedure. Okay, what is the mitigation procedure? I'm going to put a zapper, to put an example, or I'm going to use insecticide, or I'm going to use a fly killer. Boom, done. In general, or if you see a mouse, you have to report it. Day one or day three, I saw a mouse. So I'm going to establish a protocol to kill the mouse, to get rid of the bugs of the mouse. Or maybe I have an invasion of rats. You have to report it and take action. You might kill it yourself. You might find someone else, a third party, to kill it. But you have to get rid of these bugs because eventually they will cross-contaminate your food and your cheese. And therefore, your clients are going to be sick, or your family is going to be sick. Okay? Also, if you are managing chemicals, you have to follow a protocol. You have to use gloves. You have to establish these protocols in black and white. Chemical management. One, don't store the, to put an example, don't store all the chemicals along with the milk or with the cheese cultures or whatever. Okay, so you have to establish all the steps that you have to follow to avoid this cross-contamination with chemicals. Okay. Also, establish other procedures that are specific to your food or business. And in general terms, these are the good operation practices. For example, when you are working in your plant, work tidy. If you work tidy in this way, you won't be improvising, and therefore you won't be able to make mistakes. Or if for any reason you spill a lot of whey, use a hose, wash it up immediately. Or if you are using mold, and then you're gonna using white blue mold, and you are using also white mold, and using as well no mold, making cheese with no mold. So don't make your cheese. One protocol would be, for example, don't use the vat with blue mold. Don't make cheese in this vat because it's contaminated with the spores of blue mold. Or sanitize it first with chemicals to get rid of it. I mean, this is how we establish the protocol. And the protocols are the mitigation procedures to overcome the obstacles that I talked before when we started. Okay. When the procedure is, let me carry on here. Also, training your staff. I reckon I talked about before. You have to train your staff periodically, okay, and given the latest advance, so they know what's happening into the cheese before they make the cheese. They know that, for example, if you have to train your staff that if your cheese is at a too high pH, to put an example, if the cheese my cheese is above pH 6.4, it will be easy cross-contaminated. So I have to let my personnel know, hey, no, I'm gonna train you about pH. All the cheeses should be with pH 5 or lower, to put an example. Maybe it's not 5, would be 5.3, could be 5.8. You establish the parameter. But when you establish this parameter, you have to make sure that these parameters comply with the standards, and you have to train your personnel about it. Okay. and so on. You have to carry on establishing this protocol. The rest of them you can read them here. Okay, let me. In general terms, you have to make records of everything, and also you have to do the same every day. Okay, of course, the inductions you do it only when people comes, but if you're gonna clean your hands, you have to clean it the same way every day or every time you make cheese, because if you don't make cheese every day, that's right, but every time you make cheese you have to sanitize your hand the same way. If you are using, if you go to the toilet, which is very common, and you go to the toilet, and you get out of the plant or the working area, go to the toilet and come back. When you come back, you have to sanitize again, and you have to, before you go to the toilet, you have to take off your clothes, go to the toilet, come back, put on the clothes again, and so on. This could be a one protocol. If you consider not necessary to take off your clothes because you're just going to do, for example, whatever, number one or number two. If you believe, if your product is safe by not taking off your clothes, doesn't matter. You don't take it off, go to the toilet, come back. But when you come back, you have to sanitize your shoes, your hands. I mean, follow the same protocol. If you use your cell phone and someone calls you and you have your phone in the working area and you use your phone, when you finish talking, your hands is cross-contaminated because you use your phone. You have to sanitize it. And this protocol needs to be followed every time or each time that you make cheese. Okay? So other aspect to consider is also the quality of the water. If you are using tap water, you don't have much problem because you are using the company's water, which is already treated, and this water, in theory, must complies with the standards. But if you're using water from a tank that is stored, it is stored for maybe 3 or 4 days, you don't have chlorine solution over there, you might have bugs swimming around or swimming into the water, so you have to sanitize this water and you have to establish protocols. This hygiene protocols, as I said before, you have to have hygiene protocols every time. For example, that you use a pot or a vat, before pouring the milk, you have to sanitize your vat to avoid any cross-contamination. How? You can use either alcohol solution, 70%, or maybe you can use 200 parts per million chlorine solution. You are the one who decide what to use. But the things that you have to be, your protocol needs to be effective. Your protocol needs to overcome the obstacle. It needs to kill the bacteria. Okay. Also, the equipment. If you have a pasteurizer and you pasteurize it every day, at certain time you have to overhaul your pasteurizer. You have to clean it, dismantle it, overhaul it, put new pieces, new refactions, and boom, back again into operation. It's like an airplane. If an airplane at certain number of hours, you have to take it out from the job, take it to the warehouse, maintain and overhaul it. Big maintenance. Boom. And in this way, your equipment will always be new and will always be operative. So you have to and take a record of this. To put an example, in my case, that I have a small pasteurizer, 30 liters. Each 500 hours, I change. To put an example, I change the hose and I put a new one because the hose might get contaminated with fungus and I have to replace it. Or maybe each 1,000 hours of operation, I will change the switch on and switch off. The on and off switch could be a protocol. We decide what is it. Or change the resistance. At each 1,000 hours,
change the resistance, so to put a new one. In this way, your pasteurizer will always be new, and it will heat your milk at the same temperature. Okay. As I said, pests and animals, you have to check them, and have to follow. You have to have the mitigation procedure and the hazard identification. And not only for food, you also have to have a health and safety system in place, because if you are making cheese at home, the area is wet and you might slip and have an accident. If you have an accident, you have to mitigate this hazard and establish the mitigation procedure, the parameters to avoid or to minimize the risk. Of course, this type of risks are minimum when we make cheese, but they are potential risks that you have to manage and mitigate. For example, one of them, that when I started making cheese and I was studying in the school, I remember that we were making camembert. We were making camembert, and we were just flipping the trays with the cheese. And I was so excited that I was making cheese that I cut my hand here and here, I reckon here or here, I remember. And the adrenaline was so high that I didn't feel anything. And my teacher told me, "Hey, you're bleeding." And I cut with the trays and I didn't feel it. So I have to retire. I was put away from the job, got to the infirmary, put a stripe, a bandit, not a bandit, a plaster I put a plaster, clean my wound, and then I had to put a glove and carry on making cheese. And this was my mitigation procedure, and it was established in the school system. So, and this is an example. When we are making any type of cheese, as I said before, we have to overcome the obstacles. The critical ones are critical control points, and this is why we have to design. And this is this point that I talk here. This one, design of the health hazard analysis of critical control point. HACCP means hazard analysis of critical control point. Each cheese each industry have their critical control points. Cheese has critical control points depending on the type of cheese that you make, of course. Some of them are more critical than others, but you have to establish them in your system. And that's the reason that we have to make this system to avoid and to overcome and mitigate the critical control points of your process. Okay? What do you need to know? That most cheeses making process do not have a single step that will reliably kill or remove all bad mistakes. We also have many steps during the process, and we have to overcome this process. And if we overcome all these steps, we are watching the whole picture, and which is to have a safe product. It's not limited to only one process. It's limited to the whole picture. You have to overcome all the products, and I'm gonna show you in another screen how you should do that with an example. Okay. To make a safe and suitable cheese, you will need to select a combination of steps, what I said, obstacles, that together will deplete and kill all the pathogens and cheese in your cheese, and will make your product safe to the consumer and safe to your family. Okay. I reckon I'm gonna have to leave it for here, because we have about half an hour talking about this. And well, let me see. No, let's carry on. So, what aspect do you have to consider? This is the last one. What aspect do we have to consider when we are to overcome these obstacles? Okay. So, for example, we have to consider a possible invasion of bacteria or fungi, which is mold by cross-contamination. Our cheese might get invaded with Penicillium roqueforti or Penicillium aspergillus, which is this blue mold that is on the bread, for example, and we have to overcome it. Another aspect or another obstacle would be, for example, bacteriophage. The bacteriophage is the word is in Spanish, but it's in English. The bacteriophage is an attack from virus that comes into the milk and kill the lactic bacteria. In general terms, they attack the lactic cultures, this virus, and then inject their DNA and avoid the lactic bacteria to produce acid, and there eventually this virus kill the bacteria and the milk doesn't get acidified. And saying that, our product will not acidify, our curd will not get acid, and therefore will not be safe, because the acidity will not increase. And by saying that, we're going to have a cheese with a high level, with a high pH, and therefore unprotected from the pathogens. Okay. Also, when you are making cheese, you have to be sure that your system, you have to know what to do, when the system do not work. Okay. If your system don't work, you have to re-engineer your process. What I mean by saying re-engineer, you have to adjust your process. You have to modify. You have to, if you are making cheese, to put an example, and you are draining the whey at pH 6.5, and your cheese is not going out safe, it's not safe, and it have bacteria cross contamination, maybe you might be you will have to lower the pH before you drain the whey. Instead of draining at 6.5, you have to drain a 5 or a 5.1 to make your product more acid or more acidic, and in this way the acid will kill the pathogens or mitigate the pathogens from reproducing, that will and will make your cheese safer. So or if you are using lactic culture and your lactic culture is old or is past due the date of manufacture, you have to replace it. And now that we have COVID, for example, we have to follow protocols. We have to use masks, especially now that we are here in level 4. But in other parts of the world that they're not in level 4, but maybe you have to in your plant you have a lot of people, and you have to have social distance. Don't speak each other, and wear masks, and stay away from each other at 2 meters distance, to put an example. Or each time you come to the house, to the plant, you have to report your arrival. So if you have COVID, you have to report it. Or if you feel sick, you have to report it. And eventually, when we monitor if this person have COVID, if this person was sick and eventually had COVID, we have to report it, and therefore we have to manage this protocol, because our employees that were working with you might have gotten the illness as well, the COVID. So we have to start tying up loose ends so we can manage the risk. Okay. Another aspect to consider is that you have to control the temperature. Okay. To when you find the obstacles, you always will have a control. One of these controls, for example, if your cheese is getting a high pH, you're not acidifying, so you have to measure acidity. Okay, if you have bacteriophage, you have to change the lactic culture, to put an example. Okay, if you have problems in the delivery of your milk, you have to control the temperature, and so on. Each obstacle has the mitigation procedure, and you have to put it in your system. If your cheese, even though the pH is low and is still getting contaminated, getting polluted, maybe your salt content is not very high, so you have to increase the salt content, because the salt also protects the cheese. If you are using, to put an example, only 1% of salt in your mix for cheese making, maybe you might increase it to 5%. This increase and these numbers are designed by you, because you are the one who knows how to make cheese. That's the reason you need to know what's happening into the cheese, and that's the reason you're here, to learn what's happening into the cheese. So also the moisture content. If your cheese is too wet, it will be easy cross-contaminated, but if the moisture content is low, it will be harder for the cheese, or it will be harder for the bacteria to reproduce and get and cross-contaminate your product. Okay. For each type of cheese that you are going to make, you need to know the recipe as well. Okay, because the recipe tells you the steps, and it's more or less tells you at what pH you have to weigh off, what amount of salt to use, what amount of rennet, and what type of bacteria you have to use. Okay, the other parameters to control is the batch, the due date, of the expiry date of the product. I mean, these are other things that you have to consider. But in general terms, if you follow the recipe, you will have, I would say, 50% of the process control. Okay, already control. Also, the process that you will follow for that type of cheese. If the process tells you that you have to cook the curd, for example, or you have to cut the curd at 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, whatever. Okay, it is in the recipe, and the limits that apply for that type of cheese. If you are, the limits is what I'm saying when I'm referring to the limits is the critical point of control, or critical control point. If you are using, in cheese making, for example, if you are using raw milk and you are making fresh cheese, you have for sure 2 critical control points. The first one, pasteurization. Okay, if you have to pasteurize the milk, but you need to be correct, pasteurized correctly. Okay, so you have to follow. You have an obstacle, which is pasteurization, and you have to overcome this obstacle. How? You have to pasteurize the correct way. If you pasteurize too much, your milk will be ultra pasteurized, and the casein will be denatured, and therefore your curd will be very weak. But if you pasteurize at the correct temperature, to put an example, 63 degrees and maintain this temperature for half an hour, your milk will be, and then cool off quickly in I would say half an hour. Your milk will be, and your will be perfect for cheese making, and your casein will be strong, and when you curdle the milk, your protein matrix will be strong. You won't have any problem. Okay, this is to put an example. Okay, and this process are the limits. Another process will be another limit, which is the critical control points as well. As I said, pH. You have to follow the pH. You have to measure the pH. But when you measure and you have to control the acidity. How? To control the acidity, you have an obstacle. How to control the acidity? Okay, I have to measure pH. Do I have pH meter? Yeah, no. I have paper pH strips or pH stripes. Are these pH stripes reliable enough? No, they're not. So you have to change because the pH stripes are not very accurate. So you have to measure the pH at least with 1 decimal. So in this way, I have to use a pH meter. Okay, I use a pH meter. Now I control my acidity. Does my pH meter give me reliable values? No, I don't know. What do I need to do? Well, you have another problem. See, you have to calibrate your pH meter. How to calibrate? How do I calibrate my pH meter? Well, I have to call the manufacturer. Hey, what is the calibration procedure? So I have now it's calibrated. Now we overcome this obstacle. Now I have to measure temperature. Okay, is my thermometer calibrated? Is my thermometer giving me the correct value? I don't know. Well, we have to calibrate it. How to calibrate a thermometer? You have to there are 2 points or 2 known points for the water. There are 2 points of temperature that we know: the 0 point, the 0 degrees, and the 100 degrees. At 0 degrees, the water gets frozen. At 100 degrees, it boils. Water boils at 100 degrees. We know this value. So what we do is we we check the thermometer into hot water, boiling water, and we need to measure 100 degrees. If it doesn't measure 100 degrees, we have to adjust the dial of the thermometer so it marks 100. If you mark 100 and the water is boiling, we're okay. Now we have to do it the other way around. We have to put it in ice water and mark 0 degrees, and so on. And therefore, and in this way, we are overcoming each process and each obstacle from the cheese making process. Okay. Okay. Well, I reckon it's all right. That's for all for today. And let's go. As said, I'm going to invite you if you want to learn how to make this type of cheese. The webinar is going to be in Spanish, but we're going to have translation if you want it. Okay. This is a cheese with a lot of holes. It's very young. So it's going to be in the 12th of September, which is next month. Well, next month, yeah, we're about to finish. And it's going to be at 10 a.m. New Zealand time. Okay, 10 a.m. If you want to register, just go to my bio in Instagram, and there is the link for the webinar. However, I'm going to put the link in the comments below. And if you want to support the channel, see, I have my t-shirt. Life without cheese is like love without a kiss. I always finish my programs like this. But I'm going to buy this one. I'm going to buy the yellow one. Let's make some cheese. So you're gonna see it soon. I haven't ordered it yet, but I will order it maybe this week. Okay, now let's go with the Q&A. Okay. Let's go. Okie dokie. Okay, let's go. And I have some questions here. 48 minutes. Gee, I spoke 48 minutes. Gee. Okay, I'm going to answer the questions here. I don't have much time to answer the question, but anyway. I need to wait. I can see let me stop sharing the screen. Here it is. Okay. Okay, here we are. Okay, let's see. Hi, doctor. To make queso sardo, how much whey do I need? Okay, look. I don't know how much weight do I need for each liter of milk? No, these are the comments in the English and the Spanish program. Let's go with the English ones. Okay, cheese doctor. Can I make mozzarella cheese using tartaric acid? And how much to use? This is a very good question. Okay, but look, to make mozzarella, you can use. I mean, the way to make mozzarella is to acidify the milk or acidify the curd. The curd, when it gets acidified, lower the level of calcium into a parameter, into a window. This window is between pH 5.1 and 5.3. What we do using acid, any type of acid, is making sure that we are in this pH window, 5.1, 5.3. You have to have a pH meter to measure that. However, the recipe is pretty much standardized using citric acid and vinegar. You can use lemon, you can use tartaric acid, any type of acid. You can use chlorhydric acid, because chlorhydric acid is the acid that produces in our stomach. So you can use any type of acid. Lactic acid, you can even use lactic acid. But you have to make sure that you are in the window of pH 1 and pH 3. If you are in this window, you won't have any problem. You can make the mozzarella cheese. This is the fast way. The fast way. This is the quick way. The quick way to make mozzarella using acid. Because when you use the acid, you already are acidifying the milk, and therefore your curd is going to get acid. If you do it the long way, or this is the traditional way, the lactic bacteria feed from the lactose and produce lactic acid. This lactic acid eventually reach the window of pH 5.3, 5.1, because it will increase the lactic acid production from the bacteria will increase the acidity until we reach this window of pH 5.3 or 5.1. But the fast way, with any type of acid, and you can make the cheese. Okay. Okay. Another question. Looking for recommendation for ways to keep cheeses the right temperature for aging. Do wine coolers work well? Yes, they do. Any type of cooler is good to make cheese. To ripen your cheese. That you have to make sure before you put into your we call this type of fridge cheese cave, but they're not cave, but we tell them we name them cheese caves. The way to do it is make your cheese, finish it, and then salt it, and then let it dry. Let it dry. Once it's dry to the touch, vacuum pack it and put into or if you don't want to vacuum pack it, you can put into a container. Depends on the type of cheese that you make. For example, of course, if you're making blue vein cheeses, you don't have to vacuum pack it. You need to pierce it. But if you're making, let's say, pecorino, you might you might wax it if you want. Or if you're making cheddar, you might wax it, or you might vacuum pack it. It's your choice. Okay. Make sure that in your cheese cave or in your cheese fridge, you put one type some cheeses in one container and some others in the other container. Because if you are ripening, especially and you are using blue mold, and you have other cheeses with white mold, your cheeses are going to get polluted. Both of them, it's going to be cross contamination. The blue ones are going to be cross contaminated with the white ones, and vice versa. And you're going to have a problem because your cheese will look white and blue. So, and that's not very very good for the. You're not gonna have a good appearance in your cheese. Okay, so make sure that you comply with it. Okay, let me see if I have another question here. Okie dokie. Okay. Okay, here we are. Connor Watson. Why will my goat milk yogurt not get thick? I have made yogurt with cow milk for years and not had a problem. Now, of the 4 times I have tried, have been thick. Help. Well, if you are Connor, if you are making cheese, sorry, yogurt, and you never had this problem, and you are having it now, you are for sure being attacked by bacteriophage. By bacteriophage. So I would do 2 things. The first thing to do, change your lactic culture. Change it. Change the strains. If you are using mesophilic one, change to thermophilic one. Or if you are using, for example, Lactobacillus lactis, change it to Lactococcus lactis. Okay, change the species, and change your culture. Okay, one way. And this is one choice, one option. The other one, sanitize your equipment, but do chemical sanitizing. You can sanitize with iodine solution. Okay, soak all your equipment in iodine solution. If you don't find it, I have it in my website. Okay, drquesero.com. You will find the iodine solution, or use chlorine solution. Soak your equipment and then it will maybe you, because you have cross contamination. And also, when you make the yogurt, sanitize your kitchen, tops, pots, cheesecloth, knife, everything. You have to sanitize spoons, everything. And in this way, I assure you that you will not have this problem again. If you are making if you are making yogurt using a whey or using yogurt from the last batch, dump it, because your product is contaminated as well, and it's not reproducing accordingly. So you have to dump it and put new product. In this way, you won't have this problem anymore. Okay, Aaron, could I freeze my farmer cheese or ricotta? I'm concerned about grainy texture when thawed. Yes, you can freeze your ricotta, but not your fresh cheese. If you're using fresh cheese doesn't don't get frozen. I mean, doesn't freeze correctly, because after if you have a fresh cheese and you put it into the freezer, it's gonna get frozen, of course. But when it gets thawed up, when he melts, it will not have the right texture. You can do it with the mozzarella if you want to do it, but not with the other cheese. Okay. Lilibet, hi, cheese doctor. Do you make vegan cheese using coconut milk? Yes, you can. You can use coconut milk to make vegan cheese. The only thing that you have to consider is, because remember, the coconut doesn't curdle, okay, doesn't coagulate. So you have to, and you can't use rennet. You have to use another product. One of these products is maybe agar is one of them. And you also can use pectin. And you also can use tapioca flour or corn flour as well. You can use it. And you just need to, for 1 liter of milk, use 5 tablespoons of corn starch, or tapioca flour, which is more or less the same. Or use the manufacturer's recommendation. If you're using, for example, agar, use the manufacturer's recommendation, and they tell you how many grams of agar to use. If you want to have a thick texture or a semi-liquid one, it will tell you. They will tell you. So you have to That you can use this type of product, and you won't have any problem. I don't like coconut cheese much because of the coconut. I don't like but anyway, it works. I have a video of making cheddar with oat milk, and I just released this video maybe 1 month ago. If you want to have a look, follow the same recipe but change the milk, and don't die with Onoto, because I used Onoto because I was making cheddar, but the process is pretty much the same. So use it, and use it as a guide, and you will be able to make your cheese using coconut milk. Okay. Okie dokie. Let's see how we are. Okay, we are over the time. I have some questions here. Joanna, hi. Hello, Joanna. How are you? Joanna, this program is in English, but doesn't matter. I can speak Spanish. I need some information to make after product with the whey. Suero is whey. Okay. Okay. You can come to my English, to my program in English. Sorry, in Spanish. Is that, Joanna? It's at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I moved the time. You can make, and I will talk to you about the whey. No problem. But in general terms, if you want to make products using your whey, you can make ricotta. You can make ricotta, and you can make you can dry them up and make whey. You can also make buttermilk. If you use, for example, you ripen your cream. You get your cream, put a bit of yogurt, let it ripen, let it mature, and then shake it off. When it breaks, it will separate in fat, which is the butter, and the liquid, which is the whey. You can use this whey, and you can make hot chili sauce, for example, or you can drink it as well. You can use this buttermilk as well, mix it with flour, and make pancakes. You can make many things. You can, if you pasteurize it, because the rennet, if you're using the rennet from cheese making, you have a lot of chymosin, which is a lot of rennet in there, and you have to denature the rennet action. So you have to pasteurize your whey, so it doesn't get you don't get the chymosin, this enzyme, into the whey. And then once it's pasteurized, you can use it. You can drink it. It's a very good source of protein. You can drink it. If you want to go further, you might distill it and make alcohol, and make alcohol from whey. You can do many things. But anyway, soon I'm going to make a program with, the program is going to be in Spanish, and I'm going to make a program with Ramiro Lanz. He's a cheesemaker from Brazil. He's a Venezuelan one, and he will be able, and he will tell us more uses of the whey. Okay, so I invite you to go to this program. It will be soon. Okay. Okay. Now we're done. As I said, if you want to go to this webinar for this type of cheese, we call it palmita cheese. It's a cheese with a lot of holes, and it's very, very yum. You can register. The link. Let me put you the link here so you can. I forgot it in the other program, but I'm gonna put it here. So if you want it, let me copy it. If you want to have it, you can have it. And here we are. I hope it passed through, because sometimes it doesn't pass through. Okay. Let me see. Yeah, it passed through. Okay, guys, thanks for coming. I really appreciate your support. As I said, if you want to learn how to make cheese, this program, spread the voice that this is the English version of my program for cheese making. And if you want to learn how to make cheese, Come every Saturday at 11. I moved the time 11:30 because now I'm gonna start my Spanish program at 10, from 10 to 11, and at 11:30 I start the English program. So if you want to learn how to make cheese, come here and you will learn. Okay. And as I always say, well, I have it here in Spanish, but eat cheese because life without cheese is like a love without a kiss. See you next week. And next week, we're going to finish this part of health and safety. And then we're going to carry on with another topic that I will tell you after. Okay. See you around. Okay. Take care.